While Бойко Borissov was preparing to transition from the private sector to the heart of the state's security apparatus, the Bulgarian underworld was already bleeding. If the 1990s were about the rise of the wrestlers, the massive private insurance extortion groups, the year 2001 was when the internal rot finally caused the structures to explode. The most significant crack in the foundation occurred on March 9, 2001, on a tropical island thousands of miles away from the gray streets of Sofia. Poli Pantef was not a street-level thug. He was a founding heavyweight of SEEK, Security Insurance Company, one of the two massive insurance conglomerates that rose from the vacuum of post-communist Bulgaria. While SEEK officially dealt in security and insurance, its true engine was a sophisticated network of narcotics trafficking, specifically acting as a bridge for South American cocaine entering Western Europe, money laundering, funneling gray capital into legitimate resorts and businesses, extortion, dominating the Bulgarian domestic market through protection rackets. By 2001, Pantef was attempting to pivot. He was traveling frequently, looking to distance himself from the day-to-day violence of Sofia, while still maintaining his grip on the lucrative smuggling routes. Pantef was staying at the Sinesta Hotel, now the Renaissance in Oranjested, Aruba. He felt relatively safe on the island, a neutral ground far from the gang wars of the Balkans. The execution. As Pantef walked through the hotel lobby, a professional hitman approached. With clinical precision, the assassin fired 4 bullets into Pantef's head in front of horrified tourists. The escape. The shooter and an accomplice fled the scene on a moped, eventually disappearing into the island's infrastructure. Despite Aruba being a small contained environment, the killers vanished. The underworld consensus on the motive points to a massive breach of business ethics. Shortly before his death, a shipment of approximately 600 kilograms of cocaine belonging to a Colombian cartel was intercepted or lost while under the protection of Pantef's network. In the world of high-stakes trafficking, a loss of that magnitude requires a blood payment. Whether Pantef tried to steal the shipment or simply failed to protect it, the result was the same. He became a liability to his partners and a target for his suppliers. Despite investigations by both Aruban authorities and Bulgarian investigators, the case remains officially unsolved. The Pantef hit was a masterclass in transnational crime. The killers were likely imported from a third country. The intelligence was flawless, and the exit strategy was ironclad. Common investigative sentiment. Why it stayed cold. Lack of local motive. Aruban authorities had no local criminal ties to follow. The hit was entirely external. Omerta. Within the SIC syndicate, Pantef's death triggered a restructuring rather than a quest for justice. Professionalism. The hit bore all the hallmarks of a professional contract, leaving behind zero forensic breadcrumbs. The execution of Poli Pantef marked the beginning of the end for the golden era of the Bulgarian visages strongmen. It proved that no amount of wealth or distance could protect a player from the reach of the cartels. Today, Pantef remains a shadowy figure in Balkan history, a man who helped build a criminal empire only to be erased by it in the lobby of a luxury hotel. The arrest of Sreten Yosich, famously known as Joka Amsterdam, in Sofia in 2002 was one of the most significant moments in the history of the Balkan underworld. It unraveled a web of international drug trafficking and exposed deep connections between high-ranking Bulgarian officials and organized crime. The capture, June 20, 2002, Yosich had been a fugitive for nearly a decade, wanted by several European countries for multiple murders and escaping a Dutch prison. He was living in Sofia under the false identity of Marko Milosavljevic. The surveillance. The Bulgarian police, acting on intelligence from the Dutch secret police, monitored payphones in central Sofia. They eventually tracked the calls to a phone near Renaissance Square, just blocks from the city police headquarters. The arrest. He was apprehended by Bulgarian special forces without resistance while leaving a nearby apartment building. At the time of his arrest, he was found with 14 different passports and a genuine official ID from the Serbian Ministry of Interior. The bribery attempt. Following his arrest, Josic reportedly attempted to bribe the Bulgarian special forces to let him go, even allegedly offering to pay off a portion of Bulgaria's national debt in exchange for his freedom. The political fallout. The Borisov connection. The arrest became a cornerstone of Bulgarian political scandal for years. Бойко Борисов, who was the chief secretary of the Ministry of Interior at the time, and later Prime Minister, was the face of the operation. Claims of protection. During his later trials in Belgrade, Josic claimed that he had been under the protection of Borisov and other high-ranking officials during his stay in Bulgaria. The extradition betrayal. Underworld rumors suggest that Josic felt set up or betrayed by his Bulgarian protectors. One theory links the murder of Milcho Bonov, a key Sikh figure, to his failure to stop Josic's extradition to the Netherlands. Josic was widely considered the cocaine king of the Balkans, acting as a bridge between South American cartels and European distribution networks. Syndicate influence. While not a formal member of SIC, Security Insurance Company, he was deeply embedded with its top leadership. He provided the logistics and international connections that allowed the syndicate to transition from local extortion to global trafficking. The missing shipment. His arrest coincided with the disappearance of a 2-ton cocaine shipment, a loss that reportedly sent shockwaves through the Balkan and Colombian criminal networks and may have fueled the subsequent wave of unsolved gangland executions in Sofia. Extradition and legal aftermath. Despite his attempts to remain in Bulgaria or be sent to Serbia, the Bulgarian courts ordered his extradition to the Netherlands in August 2002. Dutch sentence. He was flown to the Netherlands on a military plane to serve the remainder of a previous sentence and face new charges. While the Aruba hit on Poli Pantef was an international signal, the real war for Sofia's streets escalated when the founders of the great 1990s syndicates began to realize they were no longer partners with the state, but targets. After the arrest and extradition of Sretен Josich not to Serbia, but to the Netherlands, the Serbian crime syndicate's response was swift. In September 2001, just as Бойко Борисов was stepping into his role as chief secretary, the underworld was rocked by an assassination attempt on one of its most legendary architects, Milcho Bonov, better known as Badge Mile. Badge Mile was a founding member of SIC, Security Insurance Company, the massive conglomerate that dominated Bulgaria's economy through protection rackets in the 90s. He was the bridge between the street-level wrestlers, tough guys, and the emerging international drug routes. He was rumored to have deep connections with the Serbian mafia, specifically the notorious Zeman clan. On September 27, 2001, a massive bomb detonated in front of Bonov's home in Sofia. It was a sophisticated attack intended to decapitate the SIC leadership. The outcome: miraculously, Bonov survived the blast, but it shredded the illusion of safety that the old guard enjoyed. The significance: this was the first major challenge Borisov faced in his new role. The bombing didn't happen in a back alley. It happened in a residential neighborhood, terrifying the public. The criminal season has just begun, and fear has gripped the streets. Killings occur daily as the mafia and the police wage an all-out war. In the chaos, the lines between good and evil have blurred. No one knows who to trust. It is a battle of the elites, the king and his general, against the rising tide of street gangsters. By the early 2000s, Bulgaria had entered a period of deep uncertainty. Fear was everywhere. Ordinary people no longer trusted the institutions that were supposed to protect them. Confidence in the government was collapsing, and the line between power and crime was becoming increasingly blurred. In the streets, many believed that the mafia followed its own brutal rules, targeting rivals, not civilians. Police operations, scandals, and violent incidents only deepened the sense of confusion. For the average citizen, the reality was simple. No one knew who was truly protecting the country and who was exploiting it. The boundaries between authority, crime, and influence had become almost impossible to see. It was a moment trust had disappeared, and when Bulgaria seemed to stand on the edge of a deeper conflict. The real battle for the country's future was only beginning. The transition of power in 2001 led to several controversial incidents involving law enforcement. January 10th, Mehmet Mumyan, alias Milutin Mironov, died in police custody after a raid on a Sofia restaurant. January 29th, Eleonora Dimitrova, 16 years old, was shot and killed by an off-duty, intoxicated police officer in the center of Sofia. This caused a massive public outcry against police impunity. February 1st, police shot and killed suspect Zlatan Zlatanov near Dolny Chiflik. February 12th, Ivaylo Gurdinov, a nightclub bodyguard, was shot and killed by a police sergeant in the town of Shipka after a brawl. July 2nd, a police sergeant shot and killed Vasil Stoynev-Murchev in Kustendal following a personal quarrel. July 22nd, Sevgen Asan, and a WOL soldier, was shot and killed by military police while attempting to flee. Beyond the killings, 2001 was a peak year for several market niches of the Bulgarian syndicates. Auto theft. Bulgaria was a primary hub for stolen luxury vehicles from Western Europe, being moved to the former Soviet Union. Human trafficking. 2001 saw a surge in the trafficking of women and girls for sexual exploitation, often involving the wrestler groups. Cigarette smuggling. This was the primary source of wealth for many legitimate businessmen who were former state security agents. The soccer connection. This year marked the beginning of intense scrutiny into Bulgarian soccer clubs, being used as money laundering fronts for mafia bosses. The Lukyanov trial, November 2001. The trial for the 1996 assassination of former PM Andrei Lukyanov officially opened. 5 men appeared in court, highlighting the deep, unresolved links between the state and the underworld. Political corruption. The 2001 elections, won by Simeon Sykes-Coburg-Gotha, were shadowed by allegations that several business clubs, multi-group, etc., had funded various campaigns to ensure their privatization interests were protected. Next time, the Shadow Masters. Meet the elite ghost cabinet that doesn't just break the law, they write it. Sofia, winter, 2002. A quiet residential street suddenly erupts in gunfire. When police arrive, a senior prosecutor lies dead on the pavement. The victim, Nikolay Kalev, a man who had publicly accused the country's chief public prosecutor, Nikola Filchev, of abuse of power. The assassination shocks Bulgaria, but investigators quickly discover that this is not just a murder. At the same time, another explosive scandal begins to surface: illegal wiretaps, secret recordings, political surveillance, an operation insiders call the Nome Affair. What began as a murder investigation is about to uncover something much larger: a hidden conflict inside the Bulgarian state. In the next episode, the murder that shook the judiciary and the surveillance scandal that followed.